Alrighty, folks, we're back at it with our latest Big Mets update segment, and I'm currently recording this to my roughly 200 concurrent viewers watching live in our latest post-game segment as the Mets just took down, yes, the Arizona Diamondbacks by a whopping score of 8-3 to kick off their three-game set. So as I'm posting this hours later the next day, so that way you guys are finding out more about the Mets game and want to know the latest updates, you can enjoy this in a more consumable format versus in a long form in our post-game segment. Usually, we have a lot of key updates to get into regarding Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Luisangel, Acuna, other prospects as well. All the latest on the farm updates on top of the latest in Mets land is what we're going to deep dive right now, as this is our latest segment presented by BetUS. Make sure to check them out today by clicking that link down in the description. That way you too get a 125% bonus on your first three deposits up to $2,000 for all your sports betting needs. But I digress. Let's now break down the key updates here, folks, because I'm juiced up. Anytime Francisco Lindor's name is in the conversation, I'm like, okay, yes, we all know he is our MVP. He has been leading the way in F4 since batting leadoff this season. He has been such a tremendous player for the Amazons. But now you're telling me he's talking about another tremendous player, that being in Juan Soto. Yes, I'm going to eat this up for breakfast. Let's talk about it. And as we see here, this just came out over the past day from Jeff Passan, as he did a great interview, a breakdown with Francisco Lindor in the electric season he's had. He also spoke to Francisco Lindor about the potential of Juan Soto impacting the Mets in 2025 and beyond. And when speaking about Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor had to say this about his impending free agency. When it comes to the outfielder from across our borough, he's having a fantastic year, and I hope he goes out there and breaks every record out there when it comes to getting paid. If it's with us, let's see here, it'll be fantastic. He'll help us a lot. So already, Juan Soto, Francisco Lindor connections, these have been going on for quite some time now. I don't think anyone should be shocked by this. Juan Soto has been long connected to the Mets going literally since the beginning of his time with the Washington Nationals. To any Yankees fans going out of their way to say, oh great, Mets fans are talking about Yanks and Juan Soto right away as if it's going to happen, it's just a pipe dream. One, it's not a pipe dream, and two, listen buddy, all Mets fans have been on the Juan Soto radar and understanding on how he's going to inevitably hit the market right now this offseason for the past 4+ years now, since he denied that extension from the Washington Nationals of over $400 million. We know he's going to the biggest bag of a payday, and rightfully so, and that's why we even saw Juan Soto speak to the media the other day himself and said about the prospect of staying beyond this season. And they said that, I don't know, you'll have to defer to Brian Cashman about that. So he's locked in on getting the big bag, and rightfully so. Juan Soto is having another MVP caliber season at the young age of 25, looking for easily a $500 to $600 million deal. There are only two teams that are really going to come down to Juan Soto in these sweepstakes, and those two teams reportedly, according to Jeff Passan again, are, yes, as a surprise to absolutely nobody, the Mets and the Yankees. Now, the Yankees, the big play here is, can they keep Juan Soto happy by hopefully having a deep run and for their sake winning it all with them? That's the best case scenario. But regardless on how deep or how short of a playoff run the New York Yankees had this season, Juan Soto is going to be going to the highest bidder regardless, as long as there is a decent gap. I personally do not foresee a world where Juan Soto doesn't sign with the Yankees and signs with the Mets. If the gap is, say, only a $10 million difference or so, I think it's going to be fairly sizable. We're looking anywhere from a $15, $20, $30 million range that could really separate the two in years especially. Soto's going to be looking not north of a 10-year deal, but north of a 15-year deal, which may shock some of you, but really shouldn't for a 25-year-old player that wants to be locked up until he's at least 40. He wants a long-term deal like what you saw with Fernando Tatis Jr., like what you saw with Xander Bogaerts, but he's doing it at such a younger age versus Xander that the long-term investment is there. And the Mets and David Stearns, why did they go after Yoshinobu Yamamoto so hard this past offseason? Why did they offer more guaranteed dollars in term than the Yankees that supposedly could not be outbid for Yamamoto, which anyone with common sense understood that wasn't happening? Steinbrenner is not his father. He will have a limit as to how far he's willing to go. The same way Steve Cohen has an urgency and an adamancy to go after Juan Soto, a man that he has idolized since day one, and a guy that he has been unbelievably willing to roll out the paycheck for. So, in the case of David Stearns and the Mets, how likely is it of them landing Juan Soto? Or according to Jeff Passan, the Mets and the Yankees are leading the way as the favorites in that regard. Regardless of what happens with the Yankees, it's got to be a decent gap, in my opinion, to pry him all the way away from the Yanks, because there's just so many reasons as to why he shouldn't want to leave the Yankees, but there's also some valid reasons as to why the Mets will be appealing. It's going to be led by their paycheck that Steve Cohen can offer Mr. David Stearns and Juan Soto, everyone involved here. We will see see what happens then. But just for some context, everybody, please check out previous content on the channel. We have been talking at great length about Juan Soto for years here, since the start of the channel, which its inception was 2020 December, where the Mets made their first acquisition under Steve Cohen, which was, yes, Trevor May, who I since got a chance to do a great, awesome bullpen breakdown interview with this past offseason. Shout out to Trev and all the great things that he is doing. But if we take a look at Juan Soto and just the brilliance that has been him this season, let me enlighten you all just a little bit here, just to share some context. Unless you've been living under a rock, which I'm sure some fans have that want to exclude the brilliance of Juan Soto and just his masterfulness that he's had this season, I know you don't want to cheer for the Yankees, us Mets fans. I know that we never want to look at things that are riding high there in the Bronx, but there's one thing to make note of. It's the guy that very well could be in a new uniform next season if not only the Mets play their cards right, but if things really just fall as they hopefully will. And Juan Soto in his age 25 season, folks, 37 home runs, 108 runs scored, 95 RBIs, 5 stolen bags, a 296, a 427, a 600 clip, over 1,000 OPS for a 187 WRC plus, the best offensive season of his career going back since the 2020 shoring campaign, which again, you really can't compare the two. Tremendous numbers from Soto this season, not only pulling baseballs, but going opposite field as well. And even with a guy that profiles best as DH, it doesn't matter because his offense is so good. It helps propel him like never before. A roughly 8-WAR player for the first time in his career. He's going to get it. Juan Soto paired with Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton have been unbelievably deadly. Be a damn shame if Steve Cohen, Francisco Lindor, and the Mets just had something to say about it this offseason. So that is the latest there on Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor. Definitely want to know how you guys feel about that for sure. Boris will do 15 with an opt-out. Oh, yeah, he's going to have opt-outs for sure. And if the Mets get Juan Soto, they understand it's going to be a very creative contract where it benefits both sides. And has Juan Soto a very happy camper at the end of the day, right? So I really want to know how you Mets fans feel about the latest on Soto, Lindor, that connection. Let us know in the comments down below. As always, everybody, along with my live viewers watching live here on YouTube right now, greatly appreciate that. But that is the latest between the two there. So now let's get into some other updates that we have here, which doesn't have as much to do with Juan Soto and Francisco Lindor, because we have the nail on the head with that already. And Lindor, unless you've been living under a rock, has been having a roughly, a MVP caliber season. Lindor right around a 7-WAR now this season. Just amazing things on what Francisco has been able to do. And you want to know who's been able to step up lately, has been doing amazing things. It hasn't been anyone at the major league level, but let's talk about guys at the minor league level. Let's talk about, in particular, one man who has now found himself as pretty much an afterthought initially of a guy that could be called up by the Mets to now finding himself in the category where I expected it to happen. I shouldn't say I fully expected it to happen, but this is something that I will not be shocked if it does actually happen versus initially thinking, okay, there's no chance the Mets are going to be bringing this guy up this season. But after the now season-ending injury, sadly, to Brett Baty, Luisangel Acuna might have something to say, folks. Luisangel Acuna, who definitely has been struggling with his overall offensive production that we have seen at the minor league level. There is no denying that with his ability to constantly hit for power, among other things, he has not done that, but he was able to hit for power that we just saw this past night. And Luisangel Acuna did showcase that power a brilliant way. And I'm going to have it for you guys right here if I can zoom all the way up and find it. Here we go. Luisangel Acuna crushes that one. He ripped an absolute tank, a 3-run shot in the first inning against Lehigh Valley Iron Pigs, which is right around the block for me where I reside in Pennsylvania. Acuna now, who's been hitting for a solid contact that we have seen right around that 270 range this season, right around a 700 OPS. The guy can play second base. He can play shortstop for you. Can play all over the infield. He has a very strong glove when it is right, and that awesome, and I truly mean awesome, base running ability has carried him plenty this season. But Acuna, what does he provide unlike any other Mets position player prospect at the minor league level? It's an ability to handle the base paths. Stealing bags are great, having a plus ability on that front, while also commanding second base, shortstop, wherever you need him in that middle or corner outfield, corner infield, if say you want to give him a rep there over Mark Vientos, which I don't foresee happening. But I'm just saying there are ways that the Mets can dabble with Acuna versus some other options, and a standalone DH more than anything in a DJ Stewart, a washed Jackie Bradley Jr. that I wouldn't be opposed to seeing given somewhat of an opportunity, but he doesn't really make any sense over the current outfield options, right? Point is, after Brett Baty, who was leading the way as our leading call-up candidate with the way he was tearing the cover off the ball, now out for the next 4 to 6 weeks due to a thumb injury, taking a hit by pitch, sadly. Now you utter Luisangel Luisangel Acuna as probably the most electric option for the Mets to consider of a call-up. As long as it doesn't hurt its development, I'm really not opposed to this idea when the September call-ups happen. If you want a guy that can come in as a pinch runner, that can steal elite bags for you, that can also potentially provide some defensive upside for you later in the ball game, that is what Luisangel Acuna can provide for you. Should you expect him to be anything like his brother from the offensive standpoint whatsoever? No, you should not. But at minimum, on the offensive end, you're getting yourself, you're getting not a Mackenzie Gore, but a Terrence Gore, a Billy Hamilton. At minimum, a guy that can be versatile with his speed on the bags and with his versatility on the defensive end, far more range and certainly different than those guys I just listed as outfield options versus infield options in Luisangel Acuna here. So really curious to everybody watching this live on a replay, how do you feel about the idea of the Mets bringing up Luisangel Acuna this season as their offensive call-up with the September call-ups coming in the coming days? Really curious as to how you guys feel about that, because as we take a deep dive with the latest prospect updates for the Mets, let's take a deep dive for the Syracuse Mets as they faltered 6-4 to the Iron Pigs in this matchup. But Luisangel Acuna had himself a day, 4 hits. So not only the huge tater, the 3-run shot in the first, he continued the hitting spree with a whopping 4 hits, 3 RBIs on the day, a 263 average, a 673 OPS. So right around the range, as I mentioned there. Drew Gilbert rather, didn't have anything to show. A couple walks though. DJ Stewart had 1 hit as well, but nothing else overly notable on the offensive end. And on the pitching end, Brandon Sproat, who we absolutely love, who's still trying to get adjusted at the major league, AAA level. This is the same Brandon Sproat who David Stern said they will love to call up, but when he showcases himself properly at all levels at the minor leagues, he has not done that yet at the minor league level, consistently. We have still seen Brandon Sproat have some struggles. Today he goes 4.2 innings, a 4-hit, 4-earned-run ball, 1 walk, so commanding the strike zone better at least, 5 strikeouts, and north of a 9 ERA at the AAA level. Not something that I would buy any stock into whatsoever, but just something to make a note of, as Brandon Sproat has still not adjusted the way that some fans were maybe either hoping or expecting to this early on into his tenure now that we see at the AAA level. And until Sproat does that, even as flame-throwing as he is and as electric as he could be for the Mets as a relief option for them, if not a starting option down the stretch of the season, he's not a guy that you want to rush whatsoever. The talent is ridiculous, and Brandon Sproat is a guy that has potential to be the next ace-caliber starter for the Mets in this rotation with that ridiculous fastball that's touching 102 on the gun. Just a thing of work that I will say is fairly flat, so he needs to work on the pitch shape of that fastball more, but that slider is brilliant, and the changeup that he has working, and just a lot of good things are going in the right direction for Brandon Sproat. We just need to see it more performance-wise now at a AAA level throughout his first couple starts. For context, this is the same Brandon Sproat who started the minor league season this year in low A, first pro season with, yes, the Port St. Lucie Mets. So he's come a very long way in a very short period of time. And speaking of the Mets, let's talk briefly here about Edwin Diaz and what we saw happen today, because nothing happened to Edwin Diaz, but there is something that I do want to make note of here, and it has everything to do with Justin Steele of the Chicago Cubs, because Justin Steele of the Chicago Cubs was stopped today by a specific umpire that told him to check his hands. And Justin Steele was given an opportunity today, as you see here, unlike Edwin Diaz, just ridiculous. Justin Steele was told to go wash his hands after the umpire felt a sticky substance on his hand. It's the same umpire that tossed Edwin Diaz immediately with no opportunity to wash his hands. Ben Verlander, everyone tweeted about this earlier today. Vic Carapazza, the schmuck of an official that he is at the major league level, somehow, someway allows Justin Steele to go wash his hands. But Edwin Diaz, when he returns from injury, right, when he's feeling good and we're finally getting things grooving right, feeling like he's finally getting everything how he wants it to be, he gets a 10-game suspension just like that without, no precursor, nothing premeditated that led to this point. Edwin was not anything beyond a first-time offender either. So it is ridiculous how we continue to see the pick-and-choose notion by the officials at the major league level to suggest, okay, you know what? It's sticky, but I'll give you the benefit of the doubt. It hasn't happened to you before. Let's go wash your hands. But in the case of the Mets, Max Scherzer, Edwin Diaz, even minor league guys, we've seen it. It doesn't matter. they're all getting automatic suspensions because the MLB simply hates the Mets, and you cannot tell me otherwise. That's just how I feel about it. It's not going to waver right now because it's absolutely disgusting, the lack of clarity, the lack of consistency that we have at the major league level with their officiating. That is why we continue to draw oh so close to official automatic umpires handling everything, and hopefully handling this kind of nonsense too, because it is inexcusable. And this all started with a sticky substance breakdown 3+ years ago, rushed by Rob Manfred as a way to save face with him changing baseballs himself, with the baseballs dying, not going out of the ballpark at all. Historic rates to begin the 2021 season. No hitters at a historic rate. They had to change things end fast. So what did they do? They did not warn any pitchers. They told them, hey, we're going to do an automatic now suspension for sticky stuff. So stuff that you've been using your whole career, sweat, rosin, all those things. Now it's going to become an issue. Spider attack guys like Trevor Bauer and Garrett Cole that have manipulated. Yes, we're aware of that, but the vast majority of the pitchers weren't manipulating pitches all that much with sticky stuff in a way that you're increasing or decreasing your RPMs. Had a lot more to do about comfortability and just firm grip on dealing with inconsistent baseballs every day at the major league level. And that is the latest with the WardyNYM TED Talk. And thank you all so much for coming. But that is going to be it for the Mets updates, everybody. Let me know how you feel all about that in the comments down below. As I mentioned again, to all my live viewers, I've been chiming in live here on the post-game coverage. Thank you all so much for that. I greatly appreciate it. And stay tuned as we're going to continue to be live for all Mets games for the remainder of the season for our post-game coverage. We may have some even watch parties before the end of the season if we're lucky, as those have been long overdue, been wanting to make those happen. And be on the lookout. We will be doing live callers for some of our post-game segments as well, along with special guests, as we try to do at least one every single week. So make sure you're chiming into the content, and wherever you get your audio podcast for all your WardyNYM Mets post-game coverage, check us out there as well. And thank you all so much for doing so. All you guys got to do is check out Apple, Spotify, Google, look up WardyNYM, leave a 5-star review if you found yourself enjoying the content. And thank you all so much for hitting that like and subscribe button on your way out. That does it for the latest updates. I'll see you on the next one. And as always, no matter what, let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.